Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to be together with you all. Sorry we got late in starting today. We're about half an hour later than we usually are, but I hope that all of you are coming straight from the Arti, so you were with us in the beautiful Arti. We got a bit late. Pujya Swamiji was in a beautiful function with Pujya Century Morari Bapuji, whose katha has just started today across the river in Rishikesh. But I hope that you were all with us there, so it's just an easy flow in. But for anyone who came not straight from the Arti, apologies for the delay in starting. And as always, we start with one of the questions that has come in advance from our family joining from all over the world through this gift of technology. And then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here has. I've always heard that surrendering to God can bring peace, but I struggle with letting go of control. What does true surrender look like? And how can I trust that everything will be okay if I let go? It's a beautiful question, a very apt question in many ways. Here's the key point about surrender. We don't have control. If we actually had control over how things ended up, then you'd have an argument, a proper debate for whether it made sense to surrender or not. Then we could have the, okay, surrender over here, you give up control, but you get peace. Over here, you don't have peace, but you have control. Then it would be a proper argument. But we don't have control. All we have is an illusion of control. Not surrendering does not mean that you get to still control things. We don't have control anyway. All we have is an illusion of control. Whether you have surrendered or you have not surrendered, either way and every way, there's only one thing in the world you have control over: yourself. But most of us move through the world with this idea that somehow if I just squeeze tight enough, if I just push enough, hold on enough, I'm going to somehow be able to control how other people are, how they act, how they live, the choices they make. I'm going to be able to control whether it rains on my birthday or it doesn't. I'm going to be able to control what other people do. I'm going to be able to control what the universe does. We have no control over it. So surrender is, yes, on a spiritual level, it is absolutely the right answer, the best answer, the critical answer. But even if you go at it from a purely scientific, logical, rational, pragmatic viewpoint, it's the only thing that makes sense. You have no control anyway. Choice is not control or don't control. Choice is maintain an illusion of control that causes suffering, or step into an awareness of lack of control that causes peace. Those are the options. In surrender, we begin, it's not a weakness. Surrender is not, I give up, forget it, you win, white towel situation. Surrender is a really clear, coherent, intelligent, thoughtful decision. When we realize all of this has been an illusion, the illusion has led to me suffering. Because as long as I think that I'm going to control how you live, and that if I'm mean or I'm nice, some of us control with a carrot, some of us control with a stick, some of us use both. As long as I think that my carrots, my sticks are going to control your behavior, then why let go? If I need you to act a certain way for me to be happy, and I think I can actually control it, I can withhold love, I can withhold niceness, you can withhold sex, we play all kinds of games in our relationship. Do what I want or I will, fill in the blank, whatever game you happen to be playing. But all you get there, you get resentment. You might get a little bit of behavior modification because people don't want you to have a fit, or because they want whatever you're going to give them. But you haven't changed them. You haven't actually caused any kind of deep impact change in how they think or how they would live if you were not pressuring them. And that's what we want. We want actually people to think differently. You don't get that. So surrender is not only a beautiful and brilliant spiritual decision, but if you can't get there spiritually, get there rationally. And ask yourself, okay, what am I relinquishing control over that I actually have control over? Nothing. Because we have control over nothing other than yourself. And that's the thing spiritually that we hold on to. We surrender outcome. We don't surrender intention. And this is key and critical. We do not surrender intention, we surrender outcome. Core Bhagavad Gita, core spiritual principles. Intention comes from within us. The intention must be pure, compassionate, mindful, wise. If your intentions are not that, you practice more spiritual practice, you meditate more, you pray more, you read more. But the outcome of everything we do is an act of total surrender. You plant the seeds. The divine decides what's going to grow, what's not going to grow. That's the surrender. Surrender is not laziness, it's not complacency, it's not giving it up. We surrender that we just don't have control over. And even with your own personal sadhana, there's an act of surrender in there as well, but it goes like this. It's, oh God, I meant not to lose my temper today, but I did anyway. I surrender to you. Please tomorrow give me the strength to not lose my temper. So it's not, oh God, you decide what I'm going to do. I know what I need to do. Sometimes I just need the help. Having the strength, and where you feel weak, you surrender that. God, give me the strength. God, give me the buddhi, the intelligence. Give me the clarity. And we ask for that. And in that surrender, what we find is, have you ever been trying to remember something or figure something out? And no matter how much of your brain you put on it, you cannot remember it, you cannot figure it out. And then you finally decide, forget it. And you go for a walk, or you take a shower, or you're lying down to go to sleep, and suddenly you remember it. Suddenly it comes into your mind. Right? This happens to all of us all the time. You're oh my God, what is that person's name? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. You cannot remember. They walk away, you forget it. You're washing dishes, their name pops in your mind. Why? Because you've let go of the death grip that your brain had of trying to figure out what their name was. Same thing happens in life. If I'm trying to death grip it into happening, it doesn't happen. It happens when I let go and surrender. As does love. As does when everything that we want. You cannot force someone to love you. You cannot force someone to think a certain way. It's only in the relinquishing of control. As anyone who's ever had a successful relationship knows, whether you call it spiritual surrender or you realize it's just the most healthy relationship strategy, you can't force someone to feel about you a certain way. You relinquish. And in that relinquishing, it creates the space in which they, of their own accord, come to love you. So surrender, it's not always just from a spiritual perspective. It's actually the wisest decision in pretty much every circumstance. But you've got to realize that you don't have control to begin with. Because if you think that you're actually relinquishing control, then it's going to be hard to surrender. But realize, what do I have control over anyway? I mean, most of us are surrendered anyway. We're surrendered to our egos. We're surrendered to our bad habits. We're surrendered to our subconscious programmings. How many of us say things like, oh my God, yeah, my mind is just like that. Yeah, oh my God, I'm jealous all the time. Like, oh my God, yeah, that is surrender. But it's surrender to that which actually we should have control over. Surrender to that which is in our hands. So we're surrendered anyway, but we've surrendered to that which we can change. And we've got a death grip over that which we can't. So we need to bring some intelligence into the equation and realize, actually, I do have control over my mind, over my thoughts. That's where I'm going to use the power of control. And I relinquish control over all of that I have no control over anyway. And in surrender, we have faith. And again, as I said, it's not throwing in the towel, okay, I'll be your prisoner of war, do with me what you will, because we surrender. It's surrendering into the arms of the divine with the full awareness that you're going to be carried. I think of it like being in a car with someone who knows where they're going, and you can just take a nap. Right? Like if you're in a car with someone who doesn't know where they're going, you've got to constantly be paying attention. Like, okay, your turn's coming up, right here, right here. But if you're in a car with someone who knows where they're going, you can nap, you can meditate, you can read, you can enjoy the scenery. And that's what surrender is. It's okay, God, you know the way. I'm going to meditate, I'm going to do my japa, I'm going to enjoy the scenery, I'm going to read a book. And you're going to have us reach there. So that's the feeling. It's not a feeling of weakness. It's a feeling of great relief and great ease. Yeah, beautiful question. Other questions? Yes. Come, there's a microphone right here. You can, just right here in the middle.
Hari Om.
Namaste.
So I have a question.
Can you speak a little closer into the mic? Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
So I have a question relating to this only. When we are talking about that we keep control over things, and that
Can you
is-
hear her in the back? Can you hear her? No. But you can mic set कर दो ना ठीक से.
Can everyone hear me
Yes,
now?
now we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
So when we talk about surrender, and we understand that we need to lose control over things so that we can surrender. So the question I have is, what is there in me as a human being that wants to control? And what I need to do to remove that vice from me so that control does not happen at the start only.
Beautiful. What is it in us as humans that makes us want to control to begin with? And how can we get rid of that vice? It's human nature. I believe it's evolutionarily advantageous for us to believe that we have some degree of control. I believe that as we were evolving throughout history, the idea that I can, plant vegetables or plant grain and my family will have food, that I can control what we're going to have to eat, actually was something that probably kept people strong and alive, and therefore the ones who procreated, and we are their offspring. Now, of course, we can't control the weather. You cannot control diseases that afflict agriculture. You cannot control anything. But if I really believed I had no control, I would never plant the seeds to begin with, and then my family would most definitely starve. So I believe that the illusion of control actually has been helpful for us throughout history. It's what enables people to go ahead and plant crops. When our ancestors would go out hunting, do they have control of a tiger coming up and eating them while they're waiting for a deer? No. Do they have control over lightning striking them while they're out hunting for a deer? No. But if they knew that and recognized that there was no control, then probably sheer survival instinct would work against them and actually keep them home, locked inside the hut, not going out to get food. And our ancestors would have starved and we never would have been born. So I think on some level, the illusion of control enables us to go through our life. I think on some level we have the idea that we have an illusion of control. We give birth to children. If we didn't have an illusion of control that we could give them a safe, healthy, sustainable life, nobody would ever have kids. If we didn't believe that we could protect them from violence, from illness, nobody would ever have kids. If we recognized you have absolutely no control of what's going to happen to the child, either when the child is still in your womb or once the child comes out, would be a lot harder to convince ourselves to go through the pregnancy process and the birthing process. I think the illusion of some semblance of control actually is really helpful for us. On the level of staying alive, procreating, moving through our physical evolution. But it's a hindrance to us spiritually. And this is just one of the many places where our physical evolution comes up against our spiritual evolution. Physical evolution demands that we believe that we have some kind of control. Or why would we bother? Spiritual evolution requires that we realize we have no control and surrender fully to God. And I think this is where it's important to kind of allow yourself to live with both. You know, we talk about expectations, for example, and letting go of expectations is such a core and critical part of spiritual practice. But if I didn't expect that this ceiling wasn't going to fall on my head, if I didn't expect that the architect and the contractor and the builder who built this hall knew what they were doing, that the people who hired them to build the hall cared and knew what they were doing, it would be really hard to sit here comfortably and calmly and happily, right? If we didn't have an expectation that the people who built the Terry Dam knew what they were doing and that it wasn't going to break and suddenly Ganga would wash up and sweep us all away, it would be really hard to keep sitting here. So I think all of this expectation, this illusion of control, it helps us put one foot in front of the other in our human incarnations, to do our dharma, to do our duty, to work with passion, with compassion, with clarity and inspiration every day. Otherwise, recognizing that we have no control over anything, why bother? So for our human incarnation, for this karmic journey we're on, I think we have to hold on a little bit to the illusion of control. Because if we didn't believe that what we did made a difference, it would be really hard to do anything. And what we do does make a difference. We just don't have control over the difference it makes, or when it makes the difference. But on a spiritual level, it's critical to recognize that it's all in God's hands. And this is where, as we move through our day, we have meditative practices in which we close our eyes and we recognize, Aham Brahmasmi. I am inseparable from the supreme reality. I am pure consciousness. I am divinity. I am soul. And we really experience that and recognize that to the deepest and fullest ability that we have as our meditation practices increase. And then we open our eyes and we move into the world. And as we do our duties, we put on sort of the costume of the role we play. And as part of that costume is the assumption that I have some control. An assumption that the stage we're performing on isn't going to collapse from beneath our feet. An assumption that as we say our lines, other people are going to say their lines. And it's going to unfold in the way that it should. And then at night we go back and we sit in our meditation and we remember, oh yeah, there's nothing but God. Oh yeah, nothing but God. And I think that pendulum swing of yes and is the place that most of us are meant to live. It's certainly the place that I live in, and that feels the most right for me as a spiritual being in a human body deeply committed to spiritual truth and realization and awakening and deepening truth. I'm deeply committed to this particular human incarnation that absolutely requires some illusion of control to get up and do what we do every day. Yeah. So it's not a vice. It's not a vice by any means, but it is something that leads to suffering, and that's where you balance it. And you remember, oh yeah, that suffering I had today was due to that illusion. Oh yeah. You know, it's like you voluntarily watch a horror movie and, you know, your heart beats really, really fast and your palms get sweaty, and when it becomes too much, you close your eyes and you remember, oh yeah, it's just a movie. Or maybe you plug up your ears and you close your eyes, or you walk out of the room. Or if you're watching it at home, you put the pause button and you take a moment and you remember, oh yeah, it's just a movie. And then you turn it back on because you're enjoying it. And there's an enjoyment to be had in any movie. And it's conscious. And then you come back and you realize, oh yeah, it's just a movie. And I think from where I've gotten to in my karmic and spiritual journey, I think that's the way we're supposed to do life. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Have a beautiful rest of your evenings, everyone. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us online. And I look so forward to being together. Tomorrow we'll be back, by God's grace, to our normal starting time of somewhere between 6:45 and 7-ish tomorrow. But do make sure that you join us in the Arati every evening so that you just flow in here from there. And so